Well, we're going to really try and dig into some of the key issues this evening, and with us to do just that is the Prisons Minister, James Timpson. Thank you so much for coming with us here to Preston to really try. We're just trying to get under the skin of what is going on, and you are the person who could be able to change things. My first question to you, I guess, is the really obvious one. Do you think we're sending too many people to prison?
I think we need to build more prison places, and we are building more more prison places. But the problem is too many people are leaving prison, as you said, as you've seen here in Preston, and they're coming back again and again. 80% of offending is reoffending, so clearly something is going wrong. We inherited a justice system in a complete mess, and my job is to try and sort it with my colleagues, and so that is what I'm here to do.
You are someone who has got loads of experience working in prisons, on reoffending, on rehabilitation, and yet I'm listening to you and you do sound, like any other minister that I could have interviewed, to be honest, over the last few years. Last year you said that we're addicted to sentencing. Many of the people in prison shouldn't be there. And you said a third of people in prison should definitely be there, another third in the middle that probably shouldn't be but needs some other state report. Then there's another third where prison is a disaster for them because it's just putting them back in the reoffending cycle. So I just asked you the first question again. It's not a trick question.
Yeah.
Do you think we're sending too many people to prison?
I think there are too many people going to prison who we could look at for other certain for low-level offending. We know, for example, if people go to prison for less than 12 months, they're far more likely to reoffend than people who have an electronic tag instead. So for certain offenders, I think we can get better results and have fewer victims if they don't go to prison. But we need to keep the public safe, and that's why you need prisons, and we need more prisons.
Can you give me a rough idea about how many people you think should be in prison? And there's currently like 88,000 people in prison now. As you know, the prison population has risen 93% over the last 30 years. Would you like to see 10,000 fewer prisoners in jails over the next few years?
Well, I'm really clear. We've inherited a complete mess in our prisons. And the reason why we need to build more prisons is because people are reoffending again and again and again. People are leaving places like HMP Preston here, addicted to drugs, nowhere to live, mental health problems, and that's why they keep coming back, and that's why we have more victims. So if we want to keep the public safe, we need to do a lot more of the work in here and in the community, but also we need to build more prisons.
I guess, I'm just kind of thinking that, listen to what you're saying there. We know that there's an overcrowding crisis at many prisons, including here in Preston. We know the reoffending rate is bad. We heard it from the officers there. They see the same people coming in again and again. So why are we building more prisons? Why, from that evidence, are we thinking that prison is working?
Because if you go back over the last 14 years, the previous government didn't build enough prison places, net 500. We've already got 2,400 new cells operating. But the real key is people are sentenced to much longer in prison, and people are reoffending more. And that is the reason why we need to build more prisons. As a prisons minister, my job is to make sure our prisons are really effective at reducing reoffending. So I've got a lot of work to do. We've
got the sentencing review coming up. It's a big moment for this government, right? Will you accept the recommendations?
Well, we need to wait till we see what the recommendations are. We've already heard some mood music of the direction they'll go. The thing I'm really pleased about is they're going to use something called evidence, which politicians a lot of time haven't used in the past. And I'm a big fan of evidence. We need to follow the evidence that reduces reoffending so we get fewer victims.
What does the evidence say then?
Well, the evidence is mixed, because for people who commit very dangerous, serious offences, prison is the right place, and for a very long time. But for other people, if you take, for example, a number of female offenders, there are a lot of women in prison who are there for non-violent offences, and that's why we set up the Women's Justice Board to look at that. So for different offenders, there are better outcomes if we look at it in different ways.
So the evidence, as you say, is pretty clear, isn't it? That for certain non-violent offenders, prison is not the right place. You accept that?
Well, as long as we have punishment in the community instead. So we need to make sure that people are punished for what they've done wrong, but we also work with them so they don't commit crime again. They get a one-way ticket, not a return. And there are too many people. So, for example, the intensive supervision court we have in Birmingham is a fantastic example of how public services can work with an offender to help them turn their lives around. So they work with drug rehab, housing, and so on. But if they don't turn up to the appointments, then they go back to prison. So there are some really good areas we need to look at, and I hope the review does that.
What would you say to the prisoner, we just heard from then? He's been in and out of jail throughout his whole adult life, I guess. He's seen his son share a cell, his son a first-time offender. How did that make you feel as prisons minister?
Well, it's not the first time I've seen a father and son in a prison cell. I've seen it a number of times, and it's a terrible thing to see. And, you know, I've been coming to this prison for over 20 years. When I first was appointed minister, I spent 2 days shadowing an officer. And what was clear, he knew a lot of the prisoners coming in here, because they've been coming in for 15, 20 years. And that is a terrible situation to have. The reason why they're coming back is because they haven't got over the reasons why they're committing crime, and it's normally to do with drugs, mental health, nowhere to live. But we need to make sure prison is here for dangerous people, but we need to make sure people turn their lives around as well.